Have you ever wondered what it would be like to spend time in prison? Or have you ever pictured yourself as someone who could escape? If you were behind bars in Darwin, Australia in 1995, you may have gotten an opportunity to experience just that. This is The 90s Weren't Real, and today I want to tell you about one of the dumbest stories to ever come out of the 90s and out of Australia. To set the scene for you, it is 1995 in Darwin, Australia. Daniel Heiss is a convicted murderer and serving time at the Berrima prison. Everything is seemingly normal, but one day, Daniel notices that the prisoner information handbook he was given when he first began his sentence has a pair of crossed keys on the front. This doesn't seem too out of the ordinary yet. However, Daniel was observant and noticed that the E-shape of the keys was very similar to the ones he had been seeing the guards carrying around. You're probably thinking, there's no way that it's the same key, right? They wouldn't be that stupid. Or even if it is, Daniel has no way of using this information. He's stuck in jail. But that is where you would be mistaken. Not only did Daniel notice the similarity, he decided to tell a fellow inmate by the name of Shane Baker. The significance of Shane Baker is that he was a jeweler before his life behind bars. But again, how could this help Daniel if they're in prison? It's not like Shane Baker would have the tools necessary on hand to recreate the key, right? Somehow, you would be wrong again. For some reason, the guards at Berrima prison were not just lax in revealing their keys on the handbook, they also allowed Baker to have jewellery making equipment in his cell for some reason. I can't really fathom or conjure up any conclusions as to why the people of Berrima prison felt this was a good idea to give somebody capable of making jewellery the equipment necessary that could also be made to replicate a key to escape, but never mind. The two men then hatched a plan for Baker to replicate the keys and attempt to break free. It took them a couple of attempts for Baker to get the design perfect, but he eventually managed, and what Heiss had noticed was true. The prisoner information handbook proudly showed off the prison's actual keys. Heiss and Baker then escaped from the prison, and Heiss left a note in his cell that said, "This bird has flown." Daniel Heiss is a lot of things, but original is not one of them apparently. They scaled 3 razor wire perimeter fences and headed for the hills. Or so they thought. Baker was recaptured within a few days, and Heiss was on the run for 12 days. Could you imagine going through all of that trouble to figure out that the handbook has the same key on it, hiring a guy who you know could replicate the key, getting him to make it, breaking out of the prison with it, scaling the razor wire fence, and then you guys get caught anyway? I would be so embarrassed. A prison official at the time said the handbooks were taken off the prisoners straight away, and the contractors were called in to change all of the locks. But by that point, it was too late. The escape caused a massive amount of embarrassment for the authorities and probably had people feeling a bit of hysteria or being uncomfortable with the fact that there's a convicted murderer just on the loose casually. If this happened today, I feel like people would never allow the prison system or the guards or anybody involved in this whole situation to live it down. It would be scary, and people would be right to be upset by it. Quite frankly, it's one of the stupidest ways I've ever heard of somebody escaping from prison. I don't think I've ever heard of a situation where the guards themselves have been like, here's this book. If you look at it very carefully, you could escape from here. Obviously, this wasn't done on purpose, but they could have had a bit more creativity with the picture that they used on the front of the book to make sure that this situation didn't happen. This too was not the only time that Heiss would plot an escape. In 1991, he climbed out of a 4th-story window at the Royal Darwin Hospital to evade capture. Following that escape, he was arrested at Holmes Jungle Nature Park. The place to go after avoiding arrest is a nature park, or at least it was for old Daniel back in 1991. I looked him up further after reading this whole debacle, and as far as I can tell, he was released from prison for his murder conviction, but is now back there for carrying what they labelled as synthetic cannabis. I'm not even sure how you make synthetic cannabis or what it even is, but apparently Daniel just really likes being in prison. We'll have to wait and see if he attempts to get another escape, you know? Hopefully the prison system in Australia has learned their lesson from this and don't just give him the manual to do so. So to refer back to the earlier point at the start of this podcast, if ever you have wanted to escape or see what prison is like, maybe go to Australia. Maybe get yourself arrested. Maybe see what it's like that way, because maybe they haven't learned their lesson and maybe they will just say, here, this is how you escape. Go do it. Oh, do you know this guy? Yeah, he has jewelry making equipment. He can replicate a key for you. Just go speak to him. That would be really fun. I'm totally kidding, by the way. Please don't go and get yourself arrested. Please don't have any form of interaction with the police, actually. Cops are very bad. Don't do that. Let's all just stay on the outside world, where we can be free naturally and not just when we escape from somewhere. But this is all I've got time for this week. I hope you enjoyed listening to this extremely stupid and crazy and wild story out of Australia. I know I certainly enjoyed learning about it, so if that's an indicator, then I hope you do too. And thanks for listening, Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Until next week.